Starting?
This is Mark Hoffman's speech. You want to identify yourselves, please, starting with Juanita?
Juanita.
Linda?
Allison?
Connie.
Okay, well, thank you all for being here today. I'm going to deliver a few narrative-style nonfiction stories that involve major corporate mistakes and mishaps, very expensive mistakes, endured by two well-known companies, McDonald's and Kmart. I've heard before that 1 out of 10 Americans have worked for McDonald's at some point in their life. It's over 10 years ago, these two companies experienced what are now viewed as classic IT, information technology, investment train wrecks. But no one got hurt except for the pocketbook and the bank accounts, and a few people had to find new jobs. Even if you're not involved in corporate investments, procurements, mergers, or project management, you may find this narrative presentation informative from a general standpoint because there's much that can be absorbed as common sense. I feel it's been personally useful to me to learn about what led to these investment failures because the knowledge I gained will empower me to prevent smaller but similar events from occurring with either personal or business investments in the future. The central message from both stories today is simply to always take the time necessary to carefully plan things out. In fact, around the time I began studying these two cases, I also learned of a book titled Alpha Project Managers, What the Top 2% Know That Everyone Else Does Not, by an author named Andy Crow. This is a book that literally could have saved McDonald's and Kmart millions if it had been applied correctly. The major point expressed from this author was that the best of the project managers he interviewed all recognized the importance of preserving extra time for the planning phase of complex projects, especially when lots of money is to be invested. The project managers of McDonald's and Kmart gave the green light for massive spending without taking the time to conduct surveys among technical experts or profitability consultants. They failed to gather the data that was needed to make realistic predictions and forecasts. The setups to these events began in January of 2001 for McDonald's and 2001 in December for Kmart. This time range was a notable factor in how things turned out for both businesses. 2001 was a year when the world didn't have what these two corporations eventually provided, which were great examples of what not to do with heavy spending corporate technology projects. Early in 2001 was a time when the information age was still in its initial stages. Bill Gates and Microsoft and IBM were endlessly putting out promotions about how digital networks could fix or boost any business to make everything more profitable. McDonald's and Kmart both fell victim to the propaganda and have provided well-known textbook examples of blindly allocating lots of funding into technology projects that promised all kinds of wonderful benefits that haven't really been witnessed in a practical or realistic sense. After these failed projects were recorded and discussed across business schools in America and beyond, most companies have learned to increment their information technology spending gradually to ensure that they were not setting themselves up to receive more data than they could handle, or that they had not spent more than they could gain back in profits fast enough to cover basic operating expenses. Overall, McDonald's fared much better in the recovery because they were and still are a much bigger corporation with a global presence, while Kmart has been limited to America. So what exactly led to all of this spending in the first place? There were a number of important details about stakes, hopes, and expectations of benefits, profits, and return on investment. These were to be achieved with enhanced standardization control, which would lead to the preservation of inventory, or other methods related to meeting customer demands with greater efficiency. I'll go into McDonald's reasonings first. McDonald's has always taken the theory of standardization very seriously. Since its early days, McDonald's has kept a written code of conduct and has shared this doctrine with all of its branches. Inside this code of conduct, there are statements dedicated to the promotion of operational efficiency and quality control. The standardization of these aspects has been a major factor in achieving profitability in the 80s and the 90s and at the dawn of the information age. McDonald's was completely sold on the new technology, largely for the same reason Kmart was that year later. That shared reason was Walmart. Over a decade earlier, Walmart had begun construction of a large satellite-linked, software-based system that had gradually evolved into a highly sophisticated inventory tracking network, which was a significant advantage in the new era of unpredictable consumer shopping trends. This network was sometimes called a real-time network or a just-in-time network. This network could process credit or debit card transactions on the spot and has been extremely useful for supply chain management and sales forecasting. By the start of 2001, McDonald's had a long list of ways a Walmart-like network could work for them, in theory that is. I have a descriptive summary of several of their optimistic hopes and anticipations for what they chose to call Project Innovate. Any executive or authorized manager from McDonald's would be able to monitor complex logistic data from anywhere in the world as long as they had a connection to the web. This system would give them a dashboard-like interface, probably something similar to the visual and audio settings on your televisions, but with more numbers and percentages about things like how much carbon dioxide or fizz was in the soda dispensers, how many ounces of brand name soda is dispersed from each soda dispenser, how many ounces of milkshake or soft ice cream flavors were dispersed from these dispensers, along with minute-by-minute temperatures of these devices. Ingredient usages at particular time ranges of the day would also be recorded, as well as temperatures of ovens, fryers, freezers, and coolers. This in particular could make the lives of franchise owners much simpler because it could provide the automatic generation of monthly or weekly temperature reports that are required by the FDA. These types of reports can also serve as legal defense documents in the event that something unrelated to McDonald's actions were to land them in court. For instance, some parents occasionally may take their kids to McDonald's for lunch and then take them home where they ingest something containing E. coli or another bacteria, and the parents, after realizing their kids have become very sick, may eventually decide to blame the incident on McDonald's, when in fact it was from their own home. This would provide a legal defense for that. Furthermore, in the past, when a freezer had broken down overnight, a manager would normally not find out until the next morning, and the items in the freezer would generally be unsellable, which could be a sum of thousands of dollars. However, with Project Innovate in place, the system would automatically call or meet the store manager in the middle of the night instantly after a temperature spike had been detected, and provide him or her with the phone numbers of nearby repair technicians, along with technical service data about the freezer to pass along to the technicians so they would know if it was just a $3 fuse or something more expensive. This type of quick response would allow a manager to save thousands of dollars worth of perishable items. But overall, this endeavor was about more than just putting industrial Ethernet devices on mechanical cooking, dispersing, and storing appliances. It would combine all of this with complex statistics about things like total sales of Big Macs and vanilla shakes sold between 12 o'clock and 2 o'clock on Fridays, or the number of crew members that were present or absent from 5 o'clock to 10 o'clock on weekdays. Strategic delivery coordination, which is what Walmart had already mastered, could be used by McDonald's to prevent outages. For example, if one particularly hot weekend led to everyone feeling like stopping by and ordering a strawberry milkshake, suppliers and even delivery trucks could be notified immediately by the Innovate network to instruct them to do a U-turn and deliver strawberry shake supplies to the location or city that was in the most danger of running out if the truck was in a reasonable distance, which is sometimes considered to be several states. You might have delivery trucks from Iowa taking a turn and heading to California in some cases. The ability to respond to consumer needs rapidly can bring significant spikes in profitability from a combination of buyer satisfaction and inventory stocking. If nothing goes to waste, then McDonald's doesn't have anything to write off. The Innovate network was also intended to reduce or eliminate the time hot items would be placed under a heating lamp. The Innovate project was proposed as something that could quickly evolve to relieve individual store managers and crew members of many responsibilities. In prior research, McDonald's had discovered that by shrinking a daily crew by one low-wage worker during each shift at all 30,000 plus locations worldwide, it would save $900 million a year, close to $1 billion annually, which was the total cost of the 5-year project itself. This was somewhat of an ultimate goal that McDonald's thought might have been achievable with the project. Walmart has essentially already achieved this type of workforce reduction in a number of ways. That covers most of McDonald's early reasonings for the planned spendings. At this point in 2001 and 2002, McDonald's was in good shape. They were still the planet's largest fast food provider, serving over 46 million people in 121 countries each day from over 30,000 locations, taking about $15 billion in revenue in 2002, which was the year before the cancellation of this project. Kmart was in a much trickier situation in 2001. They were just beginning to realize that they needed an entirely new long-term strategy. Their logistics system was comparatively unequipped to handle the new era of unpredictable web-informed shoppers who often generated demand for new items in sudden, unexpected waves. Kmart's rivals, primarily Target and Walmart, were beating them in price, shopping experience, availability, or all three. Kmart's top executives got together and agreed that they needed to get the high-tech systems running as quickly as possible. And Walmart had done this over a decade earlier with their private satellite-based network, since the internet was generally unavailable and not nearly as powerful as it was by 2001. Upper management quickly agreed upon a project that involved spending $270 million for upgrades that would be installed over the next 11 months, which was from February 2001 to January of 2002, which involved over 8,000 IBM Netfinity servers linked to new checkout terminals and handheld scanning devices. And later, an unspecified number of customer-operable self-checkout stations were installed in 1,300 Kmart stores, ones that were prone to long checkout lines. All of this would have been a good idea for Kmart if they had had the ability to win back consumers faster, or if they had done it a little bit more gradually to allow them to keep enough cash to pay their workers. I worked for Kmart in 2001, and one of my managers was a bit upset because he did not get the bonus he was promised in early 2001. This was before the major difficulties they had. But after the economic slowdown following 9/11, they were forced to make the announcement they were closing 284 of their 2,200 stores and filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. Notably, Walmart had generated 6.5 times the revenue that Kmart did in the third quarter of 2001. McDonald's consequences for overinvesting in technology were not severe enough to push them into bankruptcy. They did eventually end up with a write-off of $170 million and an announcement of 719 locations to be closed. The project was also believed to have experienced some unspecified implementation difficulties in franchises positioned in still industrial building nations. In conclusion, I feel the main lesson from these stories is always to preserve the extra time needed to gradually determine the realistically achievable results of if major investment is involved. I personally believe Project Innovate, which was truly